Our everyday experiences shape who we are and how we interact with others. I'm pretty sure that's a blanket statement we all can agree with. We've all had our fair share of the good, the bad, and the in-between. So if analyzing our past is how we can identify ourselves and where we came from, then what would it look like for us to embrace things such as change and growth in order to look for a better future? I am Anna Elizabeth Melton, sophomore interpersonal communications major. I've spent the past year of my life working for a company known as the American Fundraising Foundation as a regional support for development personnel. My job is to travel the country working with a variety of nonprofits in order to fundraise for their specific causes. I've been to places such as Las Vegas for their animal shelter, Minneapolis for Engage Your Destiny, and Syracuse, New York for the Baldwin Fund, to name a few. I've also had the privilege of working last semester with a nonprofit that came here to Arlington, Texas called Phased In. All of this being said, I've had the chance to meet thousands of people all across different ages, races, genders, ethnicities, cultures, and classes who were all unique from one another. But what they had in common was motivation and inspiration, something they were actively seeking. And just like them, I believe you too can find something to actively work towards. And what better way of understanding what motivates you than knowing what motivation is and where it comes from? In my experience, there have been two types of motivation, extrinsic and intrinsic, otherwise being what's on the outside versus what you feel and think on the inside. If we first begin with extrinsic, these motivators can look like the goals that you set and the people that you surround yourself with. I can remember a time where the people that I associated with weren't exactly the best when it came to helping me grow. And that's not to say they were bad people. We just didn't mesh well. However, the people that I have met here at UTA are some of the best people I have ever met, and they are going to always be my greatest supporters. And I'm proud to say that I've managed to surround myself with people who will not only be my greatest advocates, but will never fail to kindly tell me how I can improve along the way. These people have helped me believe that what I perceive to be impossible can be obtained through perseverance and proper goal setting. Now, when I think about my future, I have a tendency to think very big. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to be able to navigate from point A to point B. This is where it becomes crucial in understanding the balance between short-term and long-term goal setting. Let's say, for example, I decide to become a lawyer. The long-term goal would be getting a good job at a successful law firm, while the short-term goals could end up looking like getting good grades during your undergraduate years, taking and passing the LSAT, getting into a good law school with your good grades and the LSAT, then applying to internships, so on and so forth. These short-term goals end up acting as checkpoints to get to the long-term goal without it appearing as daunting. Truthfully, all goals are going to look different. For some people, a difficult challenge could be becoming the next best aerospace engineer. And for others, it could be getting up and making your bed in the morning. And that's not to say that some goals are more or less valid than another. It just means we're all seeking progress one step at a time, no matter the size. Utilizing these extrinsic motivators can provide the needed accountability in order for us to achieve these goals. As the name suggests, intrinsic comes from how we view ourselves and the world around us. Back in middle school, I had a band director who was famous for denouncing the phrase, "practice makes perfect," because it didn't matter how much you practiced in his mind if you weren't going to do it right and you weren't going to take the time to do the basic fundamentals that were good for you. Instead, he opted to use the phrase, "practice makes permanent." In the music world, it is pretty clear that the quality of effort you give is reflected in the quality you produce. The same can be said about our daily habits and mentalities. A very close friend of mine once said, "Repetition is the friend of the adult learner." I believe she had meant it to say that when we are learning and growing our minds, we cannot do it just once. It takes self-control and devotion to continue putting healthy habits into practice. Intrinsic motivation comes from how we think and feel about going down any given path, and consequently, it becomes the very first step in obtaining any goal. Motivation isn't inherently good or bad. In fact, according to the Oxford Dictionary, it is the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. Meaning, just as we can be motivated to do wonderful things, we can also be motivated to go down some really dark places. It took a long time, but when I was able to see that definition for what it is, I realized that my motivation was taking me places I didn't want to go. I would tell myself lies to devalue myself and how I got here. I would compare myself to others and consider my progress, especially in education, as a failure. Just to give an example, around last April, I was finishing up my introductory to public speaking course, and we had to present a speech over any topic to persuade our audience of anything. However, I did get kindly but firmly told by my professor that if I dared speak as anyone other than myself, I would soon come to regret it. She saw I had no faith in my own speaking skills, and instead of accepting the worth of my natural abilities, I chose to avoid being myself out of fear of rejection. My motivation was not helping me grow, and that needed to change. So I dug deep, trying to find a persuasive topic, and landed with the phrase, "If at first you don't succeed, try again." I thought it was perfect, because not only did I need the motivation myself, but I knew my classmates would as well. And I found great encouragement in knowing that failure isn't final. I got an A on that assignment, and I have nothing but respect for that professor now. Earlier, I had mentioned obtaining the impossible through perseverance. It's one thing to set a goal and to feel motivated towards it, and it's another to have the discipline and grit to continue facing the challenges that lie ahead of you. For me, this was the hardest lesson of all, because it is really tempting and easy to give up when the going gets tough. Too many times did I choose instant failure because I thought it would be better than to overcome my own obstacles. I had to look in the mirror that day and ask myself, what am I worth? I know I am loved and valued if it isn't already made clear by my friends and family. But can I truly say I value myself? Maybe the answer is as clear to you as it was to me. But with that knowledge now, I have to have the discipline to keep moving forward. Life isn't going to be easy, and to achieve the impossible is to agree to these terms. But I don't have to do it alone, and neither do you. The crazy thing is, extrinsic motivation leads to some of the best intrinsic motivation, and perseverance leads to some of the best successes. I've been racking my brain about what I could possibly say today that would be worth speaking to you. And truly, my initial thought when seeing the prompt, "Finding You," was, what do I have to offer that cannot be said by someone else? And that right there is the honest truth. What I have to offer is myself, a person who can inspire others just as I have been inspired. Any number of people could have taken my place and told their story, and it would have been worth listening to, because all of our stories are different and precious to us. My Experiences have shaped who I am, and that is a person who is no more important or valued than you. The stories I've told today barely scratch the surface of what I know because life didn't wait for me to be ready, and nor will it for you. My motivation isn't something that I inherited, but rather something I learned. And the day it clicked for me was the day I chose to stop being someone I wasn't. Our goals and desires hold great meaning, even when they don't look the same. And in them, we can find wonderful things to look forward to. So let us find inspiration in our individuality. And who knows, maybe the impossible is not as far as it appears.